And I'm happy to be talking about views because views are one of my favorite things about Drupal. So there are some differences between Drupal 7 and Drupal 8. We're covering some of both, just basically the basics and everything else that's awesome about views. And I feel like I've done a lot of weird, quirky things with views, and I'm just going to tell you about all those weird use cases that we've come up with, and we can discuss other cool modules you guys have tried out too, so that work with views. So, but for some of you, if you haven't tried out views or you're new to Drupal, still learning, the basics of views is basically views are used to present information in different ways. It could be a collection of nodes or users or entities in a display. It could be pulling certain information from the current page, the current node. Basically, anytime you want to present information in a certain display format or automatically display content, a lot of automatic pages like this is useful for. Anytime you don't want to be manually updating, say you add some new blog posts and you have a feature page and you don't want to add it there and also add it in another place. Like anytime you're double adding something, like you probably should take a step back and be like, why am I doing this? I probably am doing something wrong and I should be using views. So we're just going to go through a ton of examples because I think that's useful if you're starting out, like what you can use views for. Oh yeah, first we'll start off with terminology because that's probably the most confusing thing when you're trying to talk to someone or get help and you don't know the right words to use. So what is a view? You're going to be defining views or a view in your website, and your view will contain multiple view displays. First off, you select your view type. This can't be changed later, as far as I know. I don't know of any way. And, well, maybe in Drupal 8. I don't think so, though. But basically, you're going to define it from the start as this is a view of type content, type node, type taxonomy term, type users. Basically, you need to, it's set up for that type, and then it knows how to get data from that type. A view display is going to be a single display in that view. It could be a page, it could be a block, it could be what is it called? A pane. There's a lot of different display types, but in your view, you could have multiple displays. Now, say you're going to have 3 different pages, and they're going to be slightly similar with they're going to be similar with slightly different tweaks on them. You may want them in the same view, so they use all the same settings except for a couple tweaks. So if something's really similar to each other, you maybe should have them in the same view. And then they'd be multiple displays in the same view. Is that making sense so far, terminology-wise? Yeah.
Do you have an example of where you have one view with multiple displays?
Yeah.
I just always did the very basic. One view, one display.
Yeah, sure. We'll just go find one. Oh, yeah, Drupal campsite is a good example too. Let's do our current. Yeah, so for Drupal camp, we made a schedule page listing out all the sessions grouped by time. And then we also had a session list, just listing all the sessions. Most of the content's really similar. We're listing little summaries of our sessions, just grouped slightly differently. So if we go into our views, and you can save time this way too. I started with one. I made sessions first as a page, define the path, how I wanted grouped of a feature card display of each session. And then to make the next one, I duplicated sessions, and then I changed it to be schedule. And then it has a different path. This one is a table format. And then we did another version, and we said, we don't want a table format, we're going to make responsive version. So we cloned it again. So these are 3 different view displays. They're in the same view. The view is sessions, and these are the 3 different displays. Display types. These are all pages. They all have a path. And display format is a grid, or a table, or a BYU feature card. Is that making sense? Yeah. So in views, you should know that when you let's just do this again. We duplicate this page. Right now, the settings are all the same as the first one. I'm going to change this. First step to change this is a new page, so it should have a new path. So now I've got schedule test, and I'm just going to save. What? Oh yeah. We probably don't want it on the menu. We'll just say no menu entry for that one. Now, I want to show you how, when it's in the same view, it's going to be using the default settings for this view, but then you can override. So, for instance, the title, this page is already set to be overriding. You could say always use the all display setting, and then you could change it, but then you might change it on other views, right? So you always want to be watching, are the settings you're changing applying to all pages or just this page? That is one of the biggest mistakes you'll probably make when you're getting used to views, is you'll have 2 pages, you'll make the first one, you'll go make the second one, you'll change everything, and you go, oh my gosh, I just changed everything on the first page to be like the new page. That's probably the biggest mistake that you'll make accidentally. So just watch out for that. So this page, changing it, and you can see, I believe, let's see. Oh yeah, so this grid, this is the display format, display type. So I guess we could change it to an HTML list or something. And now the preview is just a list. So does that help? Okay. Alrighty.
The section head is italicized.
Yes. Yeah, so right now all of these, well, let's see. Yeah, so this publishing status is applying to all displays. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. It's italicized when it's overridden. Yeah. So then if I was to say, well, now I only want to see the unpublished ones, I say, okay, this page only, I want to say is equal to not published. This will be some of the sessions that we canceled. Tracking site configuration, accessibility tools, right? And now, I don't know why it's not italicized. Oh, I see. That some of it is. So now if we go into content type, it's already changed because that whole section has changed to being overridden. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. All right. So entity, it's a little different between Drupal 7 and Drupal 8, like terminology-wise, but basically an entity is any node, user, taxonomy term. I'm trying to think of what else. It could, basically an entity is any unique little piece of content or user taxonomy term, I guess. It's not, it's different from a block, but basically everything else are entities, and they all have their own data. Display mode, display mode is something that's associated with the content type. And in our previous sessions, we looked at that. But if you go and look at the sessions page, instead of having fields, I have selected a style that does not use fields. And this is, I've selected the view mode BYU feature card. And that is what gives us our session page. This card I already defined as a display mode. So that's a display mode. You can see display modes by going, oh yeah, display modes right there. Oh yeah, we can go here. So you can see the ones that are in use. Your specific content type may or may not have all of those display modes enabled. I had to add the display modes BYU card and BYU feature card, and then I had to add them to the session content type. So you won't clutter up all your content types creating new display modes. So don't worry about that. All right. Okay. Terminology done. Oh, okay. And entities and display modes. So we just talked about. Okay, so basic view examples. You could do like, it could be a basic list of posts or, you know, a list of blog posts. And this, I think I will just start presenting. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, because I want to be able to click on those links, but then no. So this is a view, right? It's paged at the bottom, but it's just a list of blog posts. CTL has featured content right here. This is a view. A slideshow of banners or images. This is a view right here. This is also a view, it's calendar. This featured content's also a view. Displaying part of a node's information in another region, separate from the rest of the node. The news site does this. Oh, this one doesn't have an image. Let me go back. See if there's one where they have lots of images. Images from this story. So this view right here said, okay, figure out what my current node is, go get the content and make this block. And this content is pulled from the current node. That's a view. It's a contextual filter. Yeah. And I can show you where that's set up. Oh yeah, we'll talk about it in a bit, but it's under advanced. You can add a contextual filter and say, get the node ID from the current page. And then it will filter just to that current node and get its data. Creating an A to Z display. So maybe even just formatting and grouping it alphabetically and adding links, right? These are some landing pages with cards. I showed you guys this one. Slideshows, tables in responsive grid. For Drupal 7, you should never be using tables. You should always be using views responsive grid. And in Drupal 8, they have a grid as a type in core already. There's a calendar module that creates views. This is a calendar view. List of content that is referenced by a specific node. This is another example. So the page that we're on is Natalie Tripp, and the content type is person. And below there are all these stories that reference her. So this list of stories is a view. Also, this is another cool thing. The field display option to make the email link pop up a message form. I thought that was super cool when we figured that out. And I put the link in for that. That's not strictly a views thing, but anyway. Other things you could create RSS feeds for Imagine Learning. They had several different RSS feeds based on which product. Data export. The TravelSmart website takes in entries and requests for insurance, and they need to export that in big Excel spreadsheets with lots of information. And this views data export module allows creating those kinds of reports, and they can be downloaded easily. Even just filtering content by hierarchical taxonomy terms. This would be like if you wanted to go to your college and then department and then filter faculty or something. You could have a giant list of faculty and they go into college, then department, and this module gives you that hierarchical taxonomy term filter option. More complex. And if you guys ever have any questions about the one I'm talking about, just raise your hand. We'll talk about it. And then at the end, we should have some time we can try out one of these things. We could just try out building something that you guys want to see how it would work. You could create a list of taxonomy terms that include a sub-list of content. That one's complicated because it involves a module called views field views. So you create a view of taxonomy terms, and then you add a field that references another view, which is a list of content, and you pass in the argument of the current taxonomy term. So it kind of creates this nested views format. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah.
How about we did when we were doing the clubs and departments list?
Let me go see. I kind of think that we didn't have to do that because we could do a relationship, but let me check. No, we didn't. These are all taxonomy terms. So this we did with a taxonomy, the taxonomy tree module, right? So this one is different. That's a good question though, because these are all taxonomy terms. It would be different if it was business, graduate, and then it was content under business. And so then there would be taxonomy terms and content, which you can't create a view of both entity types. That's why you have the two levels of one entity type and then the other referenced inside itself, nested kind of. Let's see. Using views to bulk apply attributes. Views bulk operations if you want to create a page for your editors to go and bulk add an attribute or a checkbox to a lot of stories at the same time. You could do that. Again. Inserting a view display inside node content. This is pretty cool too. Basically, this module, insert view, allows you to define a token that says, go and get this view and put it wherever this token is. So inside the body of your story, you can have a slideshow of images from that story. So the news site actually had this. It's been a long time since they've done it, so I couldn't find a live example. But that was a pretty cool view and some cool stuff you can do with that, because otherwise you'd have to do something complicated to have some body text and then a slideshow or some kind of display and then more body text. And you don't want to have like body top as a field and body bottom as a field. You know, that kind of gets confusing. And so it really just works better to just have a little token that you insert in. I guess I can show you what that looks like if you want. See, how late does this session go? 3:20? Okay. So if we were to add a story, actually we should just do it on an existing story so we don't have to do all of it. But remember how I showed you this news site and on the sidebar there was those images from this story? This one doesn't have images from this story. But basically that module has a standard format and then you have a token. And the view is already set up to say, on my current page, go and find the node and get the pictures. So down here at the bottom, I have this to add a slideshow, copy and paste this token. And it says views, embed, story page slideshow. And that's the view that I had created. So that's how that one works. Pretty cool. Having conditional rules in views. This is very weird. And some people would say, why are you doing that? It was a weird use case. But we ended up using conditional rules in views when we created our calendar API. And I think some of our displays. Excuse me. So when I built the calendar website, I built all these different APIs. And we needed to have them formatted in a certain way. So for each event, we return all of this information. That's one event right there. So we've got the image URL that it references, the image alt text, the start and end date, if it's published on the main calendar, all kinds of information here. And based on the fields that we had entered in for the event, sometimes we had to say, if this is true, then output this value, else put out this value. And we couldn't really do that in views without doing our own PHP code or using this conditional rules module. Oh, I'll add a link to that, but it's views conditional, I think, something like that. Views rules. Yeah. Let's see, where was I? Yeah, so that one was interesting. Okay, services views is another one that we use for calendar, and that's how we create this API here. Right here, it can be a .json format. Oh, dang, I don't have my JSON formatter turned on. Anyway, a JSON format, or it can be .xml. And using this view services module, it made it so that I could create the view and it would output it in that format that it could be either way. And which was really convenient for me that I didn't have to figure out how to, but I can still manage the view in one place, even though it's providing different formats like that. Yeah, so this is a very interesting module. If you want to try using this, the formatting rules in the view settings don't always work. So you kind of have to play with it until you get it working right. Let's see. Oh yeah, a view of content which references a taxonomy terms fields. So you have your content which has fields, and you have a taxonomy term which could have a field. And if you have a view of content, but you want to pull some piece of information from the taxonomy term, besides just like the taxonomy term's name, you can add a relationship in the view, which will then make the fields on the taxonomy term available to you. So like we did that, we talked about that nested taxonomy term to content. That was a little bit more of a complex situation as far as ordering, but this you could just have the content selected in. So on the calendar website, there every event has a main category, and that main category has an image. So if they do not put an image in there, then it says go to my main category and go and get its image. So none of these, oh, this is a default one. This is a default education one. So because this content didn't have one, it went to its category, education, and found this image on that taxonomy term. All right, so views interface, we've looked at it a little bit, but we'll just quickly go through the bits and pieces of the interface, and then we can try out something cool if we want. Let's see, here we go. Okay, so you've got your display type. Well, I guess display type is going to be these. If it's a block, embed, any reference page, about your display format, what fields you're using, or if it's just a type that doesn't use fields. We've got our standard filters. You can also, let me go to one that I can play with. You can also add exposed filters. So we could say, what do we say? Wait. Oh, let's do track. Let's do track. And also watch, we only want to add it to our one page. And I'm going to say I want track, and I want it drop down and apply. And I want to expose this so anyone can change it while they're on the page. So an exposed filter is exposed to the end user. You can also limit it and say, well, I never want to let them filter to web components. I only ever want to let them filter to just these two. And then it only allows those two. So we've done that also for some cases too. You can allow multiple selections, various things. So now in our preview, let's see. Now we have, right now we have all those options, but anyway, so we've got filters, exposed filters. You can also do some fancy things with exposed filters. Programmatically, if you pay attention to this filter identifier, you can do some cool stuff with the URL. We did that on calendar. I'll show you that. So say we're on the week view. I did that with these filters here. Okay, so I'm filtering to conferences and health. And now let's say I want to go to the next week. And now it remembered conferences and health, and it put those values here in the URL. So it's using these filters here. Field event type, term ID, field event type, term ID again, field tags was this one. So you can also set it so that it can remember things or pass along those variables. Or you could take this URL and send it to someone because it knows how to understand that, right? So that's some cool stuff you can set up with more complicated for filters. Let's see. And like John brought up conditional filters. Also, there's sort, but that's pretty basic. So contextual filters, probably the most common one you ever do is say get the current node or get the current user or get the current something. So I might say node ID, or let's see. Oh yeah, it's just ID. Just ID. This is Drupal Campus, Drupal 8. So we say get the ID of the content. And we don't want to add it to all pages, just this page. So careful of that again. And when the filter value is not in the URL, we're going to say provide a default value and get the content ID from the URL. That's one of the most common contextual filters we'll do. Or if it's for the current user, maybe you want to say hello username in a block. You would say get the user ID from the logged in user, and then you would say, then you'd have those their data available, and only their data available, right? Do content ID up here, so we need to do content ID here and apply. And then let's see. So now this is a page. So this, if you're doing this contextual filter, you're probably most likely going to do this filter on a block. So say when you're on this node's current page, then make a block for the sidebar that does something about this page, right? So that one is probably better for block. We can also add a relationship. So let's say, let's say we want to pull out like the taxonomy terms from tags. And not all displays, just this display. So now we're creating a relationship, which again will give us access to the fields on that item we made the relationship with. So I made a relationship with taxonomy term tags. So some of these sections have tags. Also, let me remove this so that it works again. Let's see. I don't think there's actually content that will show very well with this example, but we could. But basically, that's the same use case where then that will be available. So say I just made that. Now I want to do term. Now I have all of this information from the term. I can get the term's ID, its updated date, its weight in the list of terms, a link to edit it. All of these fields were made available by that relationship. So this isn't a really good example to show that one, but those fields became available that way. So that's relationships, and the other one was conditional filters. You can also pass arguments into your conditional filters in a number of ways. Some other awesome views modules. Masonry uses a Masonry library and basically makes a Pinterest style layout for cards so they can flow and adjust to fit. Pop-up views integration. We've done that sometimes when we have like a big table basically and they want to have a pop-up with more information. Views field sets I haven't used, but it looks cool. Like you can group a lot of your fields into field sets. Media is a cool one too. It allows you to browse all your current images. Oops, not that one. So we have it on the, oh, actually we took it off. Well, we used to have it on the new site, but basically it creates a display. So whenever you go to select an image, you can see all the images on the current page and you can, on the current site, and you can browse through them. So that's very convenient if you want to reuse any images. Editable views. I think this works with some field types. So you could try that out if you ever want to have like a view where you can inline edit basically. Entity browser. This is a cool thing. On Imagine Learning, we set up a specific entity browser and you can set up in a view and customize that. So I'll show you that too. Because it's pretty cool. So let me. So on their site, when you come in to say there's a new issue, you can select all these other things. And you come down and say, this issue was fixed with a release. So this is an entity reference, referencing a node. And I already selected and built this view to return the name and the ID. Because a lot of these names were the same. And so if you did a regular entity reference, you'd only see the name and it wouldn't be helpful. So they needed to see these version numbers so that they could see which one was which. So then they can select and then, well, this is like really, really long, but they can also search in here. So they could say, okay, just the booster files. Oh yeah, it was this one. There's something with a like a 12 in there. Oh, there's a lot with 12. There's like a 124 in there. And then you can select the one that you need, right? So customizing this interface, that was done with creating an entity browse. I'll show you that. It was a entity reference source. Okay, so you can see we've got an exposed title search field and an exposed version number. So both of those filters were exposed, like you saw. And then it shows here's the select box, right? The title and the version number. So that's how that works. So this really means that any kind of complex entity reference selection that you want to do, you can create that interface for people. And that's a Drupal 8 thing that is super cool. I don't know how there is another option in Drupal 7, but I'd have to look up what that module is. And it's something similar where you can improve things with views. But so basically, the rest of the time you guys can share what you guys have tried, or we can try out one that you guys wanted to see in action if you guys would like. Or you guys can ask other questions if you guys have some.
I'd love to see the related.
The taxonomy term and then
Use
content.
field.
Oh, yeah. That one, yeah, that
You
one.
didn't have on this big bill.
I cannot find the old one. I think it was in a not publicly accessible website. And so I don't have permission anymore. But yeah, we can try that one out. So this one is just, oh, there is an 8. Interesting. Well, I haven't tried it in 8, but we could try it in 8. Interesting. Okay. So I kind of thought we might do that one. So I started a demo website that might work for that. Let's see. Oh, not this one. Just close all that. Okay, yeah, so I started a demo site. Okay, so what I did was I auto-generated a lot of content for type article, and then on me, see, yeah. And I have just the tags. So let's look and see what we've got there. So I've got 3 taxonomy terms, and then on here they've got a field that has a little description. Oh, I thought they did. Oh yeah, by default they have a description field. Okay, so first off then we would start with creating the taxonomy term. Well, hopefully the Drupal 8 module works so we can see that. I haven't tried it out, but we'll give it a try. Okay, so I'm gonna do this one is cool because you can pass in all these arguments and stuff. At least in Drupal 7 you can. So we'll see how Drupal 8 goes. So while that is getting that module, we'll come back here. Okay, and we'll create, let's do like content by tag. Now, this is not going to be by a content type. It's going to be a tag, a taxonomy term type, and then we'll reference a content one. So we'll do, let's do tags. We'll create a page, content by tag, and let's just display all. Save and edit. And then we also have a taxonomy term-based one and then a content-based one. So now we're also going to create a separate view. And remember, it has to be separate because it's 2 different entity types. So now we'll create our content one. So this is just going to be articles, type content, article. And I don't think I do one of those yet. Oh, okay. Okay, so it's been installed now. So we'll go ahead and extend. Just field view and make sure we have all dependencies good. Okay, so no. Okay, so in here we should have our 3. Okay, perfect. And let's also add a field for the description so that you can see like where the taxonomy terms information is and where the contents information is. Sure, let's do description. Bye. Okay, so now we've got a tag and its description. And this is enabled now. So now we'll add view. Embed a view as a field. So now we'll go ahead and say articles by topic. So now we're selecting our content view. Oh, hang on, let's see what happened. Okay, let's go back and edit this more. Okay, so we want to select articles by topic. And we'll just do the master display. I didn't create a certain display type because I wasn't sure which one it would want yet. So it's good to note that a view can have a master format without having any displays on it yet, which is the case for this one. Okay, so we'll go ahead and say yes. Now, contextual filters. We already talked about this, right? Now, on this one, we want to add a contextual filter and say we only want content that references a certain term. Has taxonomy term. Yeah, has taxonomy term ID. I think we'll try this one. And then we'll say provide the default value. Actually, no, we won't, let's not say anything yet. We're not getting it from the URL. So we save. Now, right now, the articles by topic doesn't even know how to get its taxonomy term ID at all. Here, we're going to pass in the taxonomy term ID. Now, we actually haven't added that yet. So let's go and add our taxonomy term ID. And we just want unformatted. Yeah, we'll see. So this should just be the plain ID and apply. And sometimes when a field references another field, it needs to have this one before it so it can find it. So I'm going to reorder it. I'm guessing that that is probably the case. So I'm putting the view last. So now when we go into the view, now there's replacement patterns and I can see, okay, here I can get the taxonomy term ID right here. I'm just going to get the raw taxonomy term ID. And I'm going to put that value in there. So now we're passing this contextual filter over to the next view. And we'll see how that works. Oh, good, this is working. Okay, let me hide the taxonomy term ID just so that we're not seeing it. And then, yeah, okay. Okay, so now we're seeing design with a design description and then all the content that is tagged under design. And then Drupal and its description and all the content that's tagged. So what we could do next is we could say, well, I don't just want just the title of the content to show. I also want the author. Well, the author's gonna be the same. I also want a summary of the body. And let's do summary or trimmed. There we go. And we'll just do like only a few characters. And we could even say, well, we only want to show the first three articles for that topic. So we'll just do 3 so it's shorter and save. And now back here, let's do, now we've got design and the content, and it's not trimming it. And 1, 2, and 3, and then the next topic. So yeah, so it's working. So again, this one just had to have the contextual filter defined, but we didn't tell it anything about it because the other view handles passing it in. So if it doesn't have it, it'll just display everything. So yeah. So the difference between this and using a relationship to get information from content or from a term is partly just the organization and structure of this. Because for this one item, we have multiples of something else. Rather than just saying, I'm trying to think, say, I guess that's kind of hard to explain. But basically, per this one item, we're getting another collection nested inside of it. So, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, lots of fun. So, yeah, hope you guys liked it. And there should be lots of links. So.